Welcome back to Prof E Plays. I'm Prof E, and we're starting a new campaign here. This is an experiment, part of an experiment here. I am going to be playing Apocalypse World, which is the source of the Powered by the Apocalypse games, including games like Dungeon World and like, as far as I understand, Powered by the Apocalypse is the first game to use this type of system, which then has kind of exploded in terms of its popularity. So you have all kinds of games out there using this style, from like Avatar Legends, right, based on Avatar: The Last Airbender, to like on this channel, I have played Monster of the Week, which is also based on that same basic system, and also games like Masks. If you want to look at kind of I think that it's like the CW teen superhero kind of genre. All kinds of stuff, all kinds of stuff in this type of game. In any case, so like I said, I'm doing an experiment here. So this is not my first time having a Powered by the Apocalypse game. Even on this channel, I do have a short series of Monster of the Week that I played. But what the experiment is, right, is I have recently, at least at the time of this recording, I have released a couple of videos about what a way that I'm thinking about how RPGs work. Right? And that is specifically how our mental space works while we are playing a TTRPG, a tabletop role playing game. And that is that our mental space, right, that we are living in. Now, this is ignoring things like, if you're playing socially, like table talk, that kind of stuff, that the real world, this aspect, but within the game world, as you are playing the game, you're dividing your attention, right, into three different areas. So one area would be the system, one area would be the story, and one area would be the immersion, experiencing the world as if it were real. And it is difficult for us to simultaneously pursue all three of these in our mental space. And so the more we do one, the less we're going to do the other. The more we're flipping through books, looking things up on tables, the less we're going to be immersed in the world. The more we are focused on hitting certain story beats, the less we're going to be able to focus on things like getting the system right, or again, feeling immersed in the world. The more we're focused on being immersed in the world, we're going to end up sacrificing system and story to do that, right? So the goal then is to find a balance that we find that we ourselves enjoy. Now, I am experimenting here by thinking about how can we take these elements and in some sense separate them, right? So that way when I am playing, I can bring out the immersion more, right? And not be thinking quite as much about story at that point in time. Now, I do want to think about story, right? I like to think about system, but I want to try to have it be balanced in such a way that I am spending my time strategically in one mental space or another, rather than trying to hop back and forth between these 3 points simultaneously. So, in this triangular mental space, rather than trying to operate somewhere in the center of it, I'm rather moving strategically from point to point so that when I'm thinking about story, I'm not really worried about immersing myself at that point in time. Right. So, that's really the big thing that I'm going to be doing. All right. So, in order to facilitate that, what I am doing, I'm looking at this idea of a story structure and specifically using a three-act story structure. And this was something that I have linked before, and I can also link here. It was developed by Katrina Ostrander. Unfortunately, I was not able to find the article that she laid this out in. Instead, this was an article that I found through another person who had like kind of copied and pasted her structure into their um, it was a compilation of a bunch of different ways of approaching a three-act story structure. And this one is specifically applied to a mini RPG campaign template, which sounds perfect to me. Right, so that's what we're going to be doing. So the idea here is right now we're going to be doing what Ostrander would call session zero, that is setting up the hook, setting up the setup, and then also we're going to be doing the story GM prep for session number one. So we will be thinking a little bit ahead. And then for the future episodes in this series, my plan is to have the first part of the episode really being the immersive aspect where we are stepping into the shoes of our character and living out the experience as it goes, and then just interjecting the story that has already been pre-designed, right, into those elements, into those segments where they come in, and of course we will have to break over for system occasionally because hey, dice are a thing. We like dice, right? So and then at the end of each of the following episodes, we will be doing we'll step away from the immersion and again focus on thinking out the story elements that are then going to appear in the next session. So that is the idea. So rather than hopping back and forth between these 3 points so much, we're going to have areas where we're focusing more on the immersion, areas where we're focusing more on the story, and trying to separate this out a bit more. I don't know whether it's going to work or not. This might end up being a total failure. I don't know. But what I do know is that I'm going to do all of this in total of 9 sessions. So there will be 9 episodes recorded for this series. And just so you know, at the time that I'm releasing this, my plan is to have all of those episodes recorded so that you can know over the next just over 2 months or so, you're going to be able to experience the story, good or bad. Right? You're going to be able to experience it without having to worry about weird breaks or anything like that because of vacation or whatever it happens to be. Right. So that is my plan. Again, might fall apart, but yeah, we'll find out. At the very least, I am committing myself. We're going to have 9 episodes. That's it. At the end, I might say I'm never doing this again, maybe, or maybe I'll love it. I don't know. Maybe I'll find some other way of approaching this. Maybe I'll try a different experiment. Who knows? In any case, let's get to it. So, starting then with session 0. Now, I mentioned before I'm using Apocalypse World. Now, another thing that I need to do, because I'm playing solo, I need to have some kind of solo tools available. Well, great news. Right here, there's this thing called a one-page solo engine, which is available on Drive-Thru RPG. I don't remember whether it's free or pay what you want or like $1 or $2. I honestly don't remember. But it's very, very simple. It says a one-page solo engine. It is actually, and you could see what I held up, 3 printed pages, but like one of them is just kind of notes on how to use the thing. Technically, when you download the PDF, it's 4 printed pages, but the first page is just like a big title page that you don't really need, right? So you could print back front and back, right, these 2 pages and have the whole engine front and back. I don't want to have to flip the page over, so I have 2 pages, and that leaves me more mess to then deal with. Definitely ideal. But the nice thing about this engine, it is designed specifically with Powered by the Apocalypse games in mind. Now, it can be used for other games, but it specifically has in mind this type of game. So, I figure it makes sense. Let's go ahead and use this. All right, so that is that tool. There we go. So, Powered by the Apocalypse, specifically Apocalypse World, is the game I'm playing. So I also have some various sheets available related to that. These are things like I got Apocalypse World as part of a bundle that I bought. I think it was on Humble Bundle or something. There's this big RPG bundle. So I bought that, and it has a bunch of reference sheets. So I printed those out. I also printed out this 3-act story structure broken out into those 9 sessions. Session 0 plus 8 story sessions. Right, so I have that printed out as well. Another thing that I've printed out is a couple things I'm going to be needing. One, as a player, I need my player playbook right here. I'm going to be playing a savvy head, so part of what we're going to be doing in this session is creating that savvy head. I enjoy the Powered by the Apocalypse style um, character creation. I find it's significantly more streamlined than something like Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons, the kind of game where they give you a process for creating a character that can take a really long time, and then they provide electronic tools to make it easier rather than just fixing the character creation process. All right, so there's that. Then I have some things I'm going to need from the GM role, right? And that would be our threat map. So the threat map is where you show all the various elements of your game, right? And then the threat sheets, right, which is going to describe each individual threat and its characteristics as relevant. Cool. So then, I also have just one other thing that I brought with me here today. My Ultimate RPG Character Backstory Guide. I might or might not decide to use some of this to maybe develop our character a little bit more. So, one challenge with these Powered by the Apocalypse games is they're designed around playbooks. And and I have not yet found a game that said you can have more than one person having the same playbook. So unlike, say, in something like a traditional D&D, where you can have 3 fighters, whatever, may not be the best idea, but you can do it. You actually cannot, at least not by the book, empowered by the Apocalypse games. In Apocalypse World is very clear that if you are the savvy head, you are the savvy head in Apocalypse World. There is not another one. Certainly, now there might be other people that say work with technology, but you are the savvy head. You are unique. You will not have other PCs that fulfill that same role. Now, this then means that the way the game is designed is for you to have something like 3 to 5 player characters, each of which have significantly different roles, so then you can complement each other. Do you see where I'm going with this? My problem is this. Sometimes I would play, and I've actually played a little bit with Apocalypse World off camera, uh, where I would make a suite of characters, right, and kind of move between them. And you see me do this when I play Cepheus Universal. I have like 4 or 5 characters, 6 characters, and each of them kind of fulfills their own role mechanically. The problem with me trying to do that for this experiment is this: it becomes really hard to become immersed if you have to keep kind of changing hats all the time. So I want to, when I'm in that immersion mode, I want to actually be in that immersion mode for a single character, which means I'm going to have one PC. So there are going to probably be significant NPCs out there, of course, but that but I will not be playing them as player characters. They will not be following the PC rules. They will not be having the full playbooks. They will be acting as NPCs. So I just want to be very clear about that from the get-go. So one character, one player character that is. It has to be man versus nature as the conflict because there's only one character. Now, one player character, Lucas. That's it. And then we'll move forward from there. So let's get into it. So I'm looking now at Katrina Ostrander's structure for section 0. Here are the 5 elements that should happen during session 0. First, a dramatic question and premise. Secondly, character creation. Third, character backstories. Fourth, a side or personal quest assignment. And fifth, the inciting incident that sets the plot in motion. So those are the elements that I need to create for session 0 purposes. Then we're going to move into the session 1 story creation part. Now, what is supposed to happen during session 1, just as a preview, is we're supposed to establish the setting with a hint of normalcy, draw the PCs into the plot with a conflict, action, or challenge they must meet, and then also give the PCs a glimpse of the villain's plans, though they may not fully comprehend them, and highlight the stakes. That is what will happen if the PCs fail. Right? So those are the things that we need to do here in this episode. So let's get into it. So there are a number of ways that we can try to approach this. Geek Gamers is one who would say, start with the environment. I'm going to say, I'm not going to do that. That's it. So I don't want to start yet with the dramatic question and premise because I want to get to know the character more, to know what type of question or premise would be relevant, that would touch on things they care about. That's the idea. So let's go ahead and get into this. I'm going to set aside my dice for a moment. You probably cannot read this. I can barely read this, so I'm not going to bother with that. Never mind. Bring the dice back. Okay. So pull out my pencil. There we go. We're going to go step by step through this process. So, to create your Savvy Head, choose Name, Look, Stats, Moves, Workspace, Projects, and HX. That HX is for History, and that is History with other player characters. Great news, we don't have to do that one because there are no other player characters. However, I am going to do it for backstory reasons, so I'm kind of doing it. All right, here we go. So first thing, I need a name. So these are the kinds of names we might possibly, I'm not going to list them all off. If you really want to, you can get all of this materials if you go to the Apocalypse World website. They do actually have the playbooks there. You can download those ones, I believe, for free. Right, so there we go. So I want to think about name first. So okay. They have a list of names to choose from. One that jumps out at me is Oliver, because probably the reason it jumps out at me is that it is such a normal name. It's not a name like Lemma or Spectre or something like that, which are other names on this list, right? So I think I'm going to go with Oliver, right? So his name is Oliver. So we have a savvy head now. Name Oliver. We need to know what his look is like. So we've got name, check. Look. So here we go. So man, woman, ambiguous, or transgressing. I'm just gonna go with man, mostly because I like playing my own gender. especially if I'm only going to do if I'm going to do only one player character. I do definitely prefer for my own. Okay, so then, in terms of wear, so we utility wear plus tech, scrounge wear plus tech, vintage wear plus tech, or tech wear. I like vintage wear plus tech. That sounds kind of fun. So let's go vintage wear plus tech. So I'm thinking when I'm saying vintage, I'm not meaning 1970s. I'm meaning like 1880s. So I'm thinking like steampunk is kind of this guy's style, right? So vintage wear plus tech. Any just so you know, like as a professor, I generally describe my style as I'm gonna party like it's 1899, right? So for most of the semester, like I'm wearing a tie and a vest and yeah, dressing up a bit, right? So I'm not the professor that shows up in, say, basketball shorts or something like that. I'm friends with that professor. I like them very much, but that's just not the style that I go with. All right, so we've got vintage or plus tech. Now, what kind of so plain face, pretty face, open face, or expressive face? Now that's interesting. I'm gonna go with expressive because I'm imagining Oliver here. Like, what kind of I'm kind of thinking, okay, what kind of techie is he? Like, so I'm thinking that yeah, something that has an expressive face. Okay, so he's excited about the idea of fixing stuff. Oh, by the way, I didn't actually read this yet. So just so you know, what the savvy head's role would be, and as you can probably tell from the way I'm talking, the savvy head is generally more tech oriented. Um, now, in Apocalypse World, each of the playbooks has kind of a blurb describing them. The savvy head has the shortest blurb of any of them. It is literally one sentence, and here's what it is. Now, I will edit this slightly for language. That is one thing. Apocalypse World. Um, yeah, it's a game written for an adult audience. Okay, so here we go. So if there's one thing you can count on in Apocalypse World, it's things break. That's it. That's the description for Savia. Right. So presumably, right, you fix stuff. Right. That okay. Okay. Next one. Eyes. Are they squinty, calm, dancing, quick, or appraising? Appraising. Oh, I like appraising. Right, so an expressive face and appraising eyes. So he's taking stuff in. All right, got the eyes. Okay, body. Fat, slight, punched, wiry, stumpy, or strange. I'm torn between slight and wiry. Like that's what I'm imagining with what I have, because I'm imagining Oliver being kind of childlike. He's not like 12, right? But I think in his personality, right, he is more childlike. Even though I'm going to make him like in his 30s or 40s, that way he's close to my age because I don't want to have to try to pretend that I'm 20 years younger than I am. All right, so yeah, let's go with wiry. Okay, that's the description. All right, so a wiry body. All right, so we've got the look down. Next thing, stats. Okay, so there are like every playbook, you have four different sets of stats you can choose from. This is unique to the playbook. So in his case, right, so basically, let me just describe very roughly how this is. So one possibility is to have him be a little bit low on cool, hard on zero, have okay on hot and sharp. Hot is basically capturing but it's basically charisma, right? And then sharp would be things like intelligence, and then weird is your connection with the psychic maelstrom, but also like kind of yeah, that type of ability. So what, no matter what, his weird is going to be at a +2, which is the highest you can have for a starting character, unless you have some kind of modifier for it. Um, Another option would be he's less good on hard. Hard is typically used for fighting, for physical combat. Cool is all about like, kind of keeping your head under pressure, right? So this one he's low on hard and hot, middling cool, but quite sharp, quite weird. We could have a school at a +1, but that'd be sacrificing hard. Okay, that one's not terrible. So, okay, this is what I'm thinking about. Weird is going to be +2 regardless. The question is, how sharp is he, right? Um, okay. I'm thinking he's fairly sharp. Is he as sharp as he is weird? Maybe. Now, if I did that, that'd mean sacrificing hot and hard and cool just being at a 0. Yeah, let's just do it. Okay, so cool is at a 0. Right. Hard's at a -1, right? So he's not very good at going aggro, suckering someone, doing battle. He's also not very good at seducing or manipulating because hot is a -1. He has a sharp of +2, so he's good at reading situations and people. His weird is +2, so he's good at opening his brain. That would be tying into the psychic maelstrom which came along with the apocalypse that happened about 50 years ago in game. Few people remember what things were like before that. Not many people do. Certainly Oliver will not, because I'm going to make him young enough that he is not. He will have been born into the world after the apocalypse happened, right? So there's that. Okay. Um. So stats check. Moves. Okay, so it says you get all the basic moves. Everyone gets all the basic moves. Nothing special about that. Choose two savvy head moves. Moves. You can use all the battle moves, but when you get the chance, look up keeping an eye out, baiting a trap, and turning the tables, as well as the rules for how vehicles suffer harm. All right, so this is what I'm getting from this. I'm gonna look at the savvy head moves in a minute. Don't worry, I'm not forgetting that. But keeping an eye out, baiting a trap, turning the table. So these moves, let me go ahead and look them up for a minute because you know what? Nobody's going to stop me. If you really don't like it, well, I mean, I didn't make you watch. All right, so here we go. Now, a lot of them are kind of obvious, right? So keep an eye out. Uh, when you keep an eye out for what's coming, roll plus sharp. Now, this will allow you to do things like direct a PC ally's attention to an enemy, direct a give a PC ally an order, then they can get a bonus on if they follow that order. Direct an ally's attention to an enemy, they get additional harm, or direct an ally's attention to a danger, and they take less harm from that danger. Now, naturally, the PC ally stuff is not going to be relevant at all for us in this game because I don't have any other PCs. But the other two, I am hoping that I will have allies. Right. So that means this could be beneficial for that purpose. Now, what this is really saying is that savvy heads typically are not the people that are going to jump right in things like, you know, fisticuffs or whatever. Um, yeah, that's the apocalypse term for it, right? Anyway, so it's probably not going to be getting directly involved that way, but maybe very good as a support in a supporting role. Now, it's not so great um, for solo purposes, right? Kind of being a supporting character in a solo game is kind of weird, but nonetheless. Okay, baiting a trap. Okay, baiting a trap. What does baiting a trap look like? Well, I'm assuming here, all that, yeah, looks like the thing that works here would be you're the bait. All right, so I could in fact be the bait. Now that'd be rolling plus cool, which we did make him not great at. Oh, is a 0, so it's not terrible. Um, yeah, so there's that. So that's something he could do. He could bait a trap. Turning the tables. I'm gonna look to see if I can find that one. I don't actually see the turning the tables move here. So whatever it is, it was not something that it was printed out here. So yeah, it may be in the main book that I will then have to look up later because I'm not going to do that right now mid session. All right, so or mid recording or whatever. All right, but I do still need to choose those two savvy head moves. So let's look at my options. My options are one would be things speak. So this one I can roll plus weird and then like ask questions related to an object that I'm holding or examining. So things like who handled it last, who made it, what emotions have been near this. So yes, this is definitely the like weird kind of stuff because it's like psychic. Okay. Another option would be bone fields. At the beginning of the session, you roll plus weird. On a 10 plus, you hold 1+1. Okay. Oh, you hold 1+1. On a 7 through 9, you hold 1. At any time, either you or the MC can spend your hold to have you all to have you already be there with the proper tools and knowledge, with or without any clear explanation why. If your hold was 1 plus 1, you take +1 forward now. Okay. On a miss, the MC holds 1 and can spend it to have you be there already, but somehow pinned, caught, or trapped. Oh, that's kind of a fun one. So bone feel apparently is like some kind of intuition. You know what people need, where you need to be, right? It will show up once a session or so. Okay, so often or right. Now, when a character comes to you for advice, tell them what you honestly think the best course is. If they do it, they take +1 on any rolls they make in the doing, and you mark an experience circle. Okay, so you can actually improve yourself by giving advice to people. Reality spraying edge. Some component of your workspace or some arrangement of components is uniquely receptive to the world's psychic maelstrom plus augury. Okay. Choose and name it, or else leave it for the MC to reveal during play. That's interesting. Spooky intense. When you do something under fire, say an Overwatch or bait a trap, roll plus weird instead of rolling plus cool. Well, okay, I definitely want that one. Like, I definitely want that one. My cool is 0, my weird is 2. Right, so yes, I will definitely do that one. Plus, that one also on um does not depend on there being other PCs that are for it to be useful. So yeah, things like often or right. This makes sense if there are other PCs out there that I can give advice to. It doesn't make as much sense if there aren't. Okay. Deep insights. Okay, this just means you get +1 weird, so I'm up to +3. That would be nice too. But the thing is, I don't want all of my moves to just be like, oh, here's a stat boost, right? I took one stat boost already, so I think I want the other one to be some kind of special ability. Um, I'm thinking things speak. I like that one. Okay, so let's do that. So things speak is the other one. So I've got my two. Things speak allows me to hold an object and then ask questions about it, including things like what's wrong with it, how might I fix it. So that would be why savvy heads are the fixers, like, are the repairmen. All right. So we've got moves down. Excellent. So next, I need gear, workspace, projects. So let's look at gear and workspace. So gear says, in addition to your workspace, you detail your personal fashion. We already did that. You have oddments worth 6 barter. So I'm just going to go ahead and write that I have 6 barter in any personal piece or 3, any personal piece or 3 of normal gear or weaponry. If you'd like to start playing with a vehicle or prosthetic with the MC, I'm not going to do a vehicle or prosthetic, I don't think. So I do start with 6 barter, which is good. Right, because one thing that happens is at the beginning of every session, you have to spend a barter, which can then force you to undertake jobs, which can create issues. Okay. I mean, we all have to take jobs, and they create issues, right? All right, so there's that. So workspace. Let's look at this now. So we get to choose which of the following your workspace includes. I get to have a garage, a dark room, a controlled growing environment, a skilled labor. Oh, that's kind of fun. A junkyard of raw materials, a truck or van, a weird electronica, machining tools, transmitters, receivers, a proving range, a relic of the golden age past, and booby traps. When you go into your workspace to dedicate yourself to making a thing or to getting to the bottom of something, decide what, tell the MC. The MC will tell you, sure, no problem, but, and then some combination of 1 to 4 of the following, and there's a whole list of things that can happen. So it's things like it's going to take several hundreds of tries, or several tries, or whatever. Okay. The MC might connect them all with and, or might throw in a merciful or. Once you've accomplished the necessaries, you can go ahead and accomplish the thing itself. The MC will stat it up or spell or whatever it calls for. All right. That sounds fine. So what's the kind of stuff that I want to have? Well, one thing I do need to decide, am I going to be on the move or am I going to be in one place? I'm thinking I want to be in one place, I think. Let's do that. So if I'm going to be in one place, it makes sense I'm going to have a garage. Right? Because, I mean, one, I'm in my garage right now. So, immersion. So there's that. I think it makes sense also that I would have machining tools as well in that garage. And I think a junkyard of raw materials is going to be out back. I'm not going to tell you what my backyard looks like in real life. It's not a junkyard of raw materials. I have a like a 4 foot by 4 foot garden and like three apple trees, and also a swing set that's not in the best of shape because my kids don't like to go outside. Right, so there's that. Okay, so I've got my three elements. It's a garage, junkyard full of raw materials and machining tools, right? So that I figure that makes sense. I have the place in which to work. I have the tools that I need to work with, as well as some materials that I can use for whatever work I'm doing. Cool. Right, so there's that. Oh, and any personal piece or three of normal gear and weaponry. Right, so I'm going to go ahead and pull out the PDF here now. I did pull up the gear chapter to see what kind of stuff people might like I might possibly have. So looking at this, so if I have okay, there's various types of weapons. I'm just gonna do a quick skimming through. Specialized gear. There's vehicles as well. I don't think that I'm gonna have a vehicle this time. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and look. I mean, it looks like I don't really I'm not gonna have a lot of like special gear, but I think it makes sense to choose some kind of weapon. Is it? I think it's just gonna be something common, right? So it says it's just normal gear. Right, so normal gear. I'm just going to say let's just say I don't know. Yeah, it's a revolver because you never know. I mean, it is post-apocalypse. He's not a pacifist or anything like that. So to harm, close, reload, and loud. Those are the traits. So close just tells you it's close range. Reload. You have to reload after a shot, and then it's also loud, so you're not going to do this quietly. Right? So, and I think that makes sense. Next, projects. During play, it's your job to have your character start and pursue projects. They can be any projects you want, both long term and short. Begin by thinking up the project you're working on this very morning as play begins. So that's what we want to work with there. Uh, oh, yes, I did say I was going to go through HX, but just as part of the backstory part. All right, so I do need to come up with a project. So what kind of project might he be working on? Because this project might possibly be something to be helpful in pushing us forward. Okay. All right. So when it comes time to write up the Savvy Head's new crew, okay, okay, it could be weapons or gear, right? So we need to um, come up with what kind of tags there'd be for that. If it's a vehicle, use the vehicle creation rules. Something else, you should almost certainly create a custom move or two to give it its function. Okay. Okay, got it. So I can create like special stuff. You know what? I think maybe what I'm gonna do, well, I don't have a vehicle. I think maybe that's the project that I'm working on right now, is that I'm starting work on a vehicle. Specifically, I think it makes sense for it to be a bike because he's kind of a loner, I think. Right, so yeah, so let's have it be a bike. Project bike. Okay. That's the thing. So he has this junkyard out back. He's going to try to assemble some kind of bike together. I don't know how important that's going to be in as we play, but hey, maybe we'll, maybe won't. We're going to find out. Play to find out. That's one of the basic principles in Apocalypse World, and also basically in any Powered by the Apocalypse game. Play to find out is one of the principles or agenda. Or I forget exactly what term they use for this. Right. So we have a project here. Right. So imagining now Oliver, right? Not a big person at all, right? He just came up with this idea. He wants to build a bike. Okay. Now, what do we know about Oliver in terms of personal connections? So here we go. I'm going to pull out now one of the other sets of sheets that I have here somewhere. If I can find where I put them. Is it under here? It is not. There they are. Okay. All right. So, thing about Apocalypse World is that anything that is not a PC is a threat. Because that's the way the post-apocalypse works. That is, everything is kind of everybody, everything, right, is out for itself. Okay, here we go. Nope, nope, not this one. I will eventually find the correct one. There it is. Okay. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to create a few threats that are in the forms of people. Now, these are NPCs. Now, just because they're a threat does not mean they're out to kill me necessarily. But it does mean that they're not necessarily going to be my best friend either. They might possibly be allies, but not necessarily best friends either. Okay, so let's go into that. So, threat number one. Okay, so I'm going to make this the answer to one of my history questions. So, here's the question: it was, which of you is the most strange? Okay. Now, the note here is that um, so this is somebody, so it has to be somebody that's strange and somebody that I'm going to know reasonably well because it says hx plus 1, right? So for most people, I'd have an hx minus 1, indicating that uh, savvy heads are generally kind of loners, right? We don't necessarily, we don't not interested in people, but we're more interested in stuff, right? So that is going to be something that's generally true, but I'm kind of weird. I like people who are kind of weird, right? So I want to think of a person, right, who is strange in some way. So what I want to do this, right, because I'm not feeling super creative ever, I'm going to pull out my one-page generator here, which includes an NPC generator. The way this works, I have a deck of cards, okay, just plain old bicycle playing cards. I feel like I'm going to be doing a card trick or something. Right, I should have the Joker. Yeah, I do have the Jokers in there, all mixed in, shuffling this up a little bit. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to develop an NPC. So here first, I need that NPC's identity, 8. Right, so it's 8 hearts. Right, so 8 indicates that this is a specialist. Hearts indicates what? Social specialist. So it's somebody that I'm going to say specializes in people. So I'm thinking it's somebody that makes connections with other people. So I need a name for this person. The great news is that there's a list of recommended names here. This is Tum Tum. I'm just going one by one. I'm just going to go down the list. As far as I can tell, the list does not appear to be in any particular order, so it's as good as random. So threat number one is called Tum Tum. So now I need to figure out what kind of threat Tum Tum is. One, I don't even know if. Okay. Oh wait. I need a goal as well. Right. So Tum Tum's goal. Wait. Okay. No. Here for the goal, it makes more sense for me to use if I can find where I put stuff. There's a threat sheet somewhere. Okay, no, that's not it. It's my threat map. There it is. All right. So Tum Tum. Now, so social, so a social specialist. So would they be categorized as a warlord, a grotesque, a brute, right? An affliction. And I think afflictions tend not to be personal, right? So afflictions are things like, I don't know, sacrifices, barriers, or whatever. A landscape, a terrain, well, obviously not a vehicle, right? So I'm thinking Tum Tum, social specialist. This feels like a warlord, possibly. Warlords have 5 types. Those 5 types would be a slaver, hive queen, prophet, dictator, collector, and alpha wolf. I'm thinking if you're more socially oriented, right? Oh, this is it. A slaver. Right? So the slaver is trying to own and sell people. Right? So that's it. So slaver, the impulse is to own and sell people. Now I'm thinking here, right? While now we don't want to take the term warlord to, I'm just gonna use the term aesthetically, because what I'm thinking is actually true of Tum Tum is that Tum Tum is not a warlord in the traditional sense, but is instead something like a cult leader, right? So that is what he, she, they are. I don't know why, but for me, Tum Tum sounds like a she. I'm gonna go with that. All right. So that is about TumTum. So what do I need when we create a threat? Kind, name, impulse. We need to describe it and list its cast. Right. So cast would be like if it's more of an abstract or a group that is the threat. Instead, there's a single person that is the threat, so we don't really need to worry about cast, but I do need a description. Right. So TumTum, I'm going to say, is a cult leader. Right. I'm going to say that like she's actually like nearby, right? Where I need to write down Oliver here. So Oliver in his workspace. Okay, so I think that Tum Tum is going to be nearby. So I guess in makes yeah, I guess probably like in the same hard hold of like town, that kind of thing. So Tum Tum is there. Okay. To own and sell people. That is her goal. All right. So now, what is it that she's trying to do? So we got that. We placed her on the threat map, so she's inside close. We need to list stakes questions. Right. So like the idea of the stakes question is, it's a question related to this threat that in some way connects it with the broader world or with our characters specifically. So what is it that TomTom is trying to do that could possibly have an impact on Oliver? I think the most obvious thing is that TumTum wants to acquire Oliver, take Oliver into her cult. So I think that's it. So the stakes question here is, will TumTum manage to acquire Oliver? After all, cults have stuff that break too. He could be useful. Right, so I think that's the first one. The second question then. So again, looking at HX, the next question is, which one of you is the biggest potential problem? You need to draw a card for that one. So biggest potential problem comes from nine of clubs. Nine of clubs, according to my one-page generator, says nine would be an entertainer. Clubs would be physical, right? So a physical entertainer. So I'm thinking like a dancer or something like that. Why is it that a dancer would be a big potential problem? I don't know. But what is this dancer's name? Gnarly. All right. We're gonna have to do some thinking about this one, right? So threat number two, right, is called gnarly. For the sake of balance, heat. Okay. All right. So, what kind of threat would gnarly be? Right. So, physical entertainer. Well, an entertainer could possibly be. Hmm. Okay. One thing I'm realizing now, with the way that I was imagining Tum Tum. Um. Tum Tum. Oh no, no, the brutes would be Tum Tum's like cult itself. Okay, never mind, never mind. Scratch those thoughts that I didn't actually verbalize. All right, so so gnarly is an entertainer. So would that fit under slaver, hive queen, prophet, dictator, collector? Oh, oh. Okay, no, 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 no. Okay, changing Tum Tum now. Not a slaver. Tum Tum's a collector. She doesn't want to sell. She just wants to own people in particular, followers. All right. Gnarly. Gnarly's the biggest potential problem. So what could the biggest potential problem be? What I'm thinking here is that gnarly. Okay, I like this idea. Right, so gnarly is, I was just looking, there is a type of grotesque called a pain addict that craves pain, its own or others. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say that uh, Gnarly is a grotesque pain addict. So like sadomasochist here. Impulse is it craves pain, its own or others. Right. So while it may be that the way that Gnarly makes money or whatever is through you being a dancer, nonetheless, right, what Gnarly is actually about, right, is the pain. I think that's it. All right. So let's go with that. All right. So, description. Okay. So this is dancer by trade, but enjoys torturing people. I think the stakes here, that is, can the community, I need to give the community a name. Can the community um, survive, really? Gnarly's continued, Gnarly's presence. Because this is the kind of thing I think that um, is not going to just like be status quo. There is no status quo in Apocalypse World is actually one of the things that it says in the book several times. All right, so that would be a second threat based on those two questions. So um, we know that Oliver has connections with these two people, Tum Tum and Gnarly. I don't know exactly what those connections are, except that Tum Tum is trying to recruit Oliver. Apparently, he has resisted so far. I think it might just be he's kind of clueless enough. He kind of likes Tum Tum, like on a personal level, but he's not into the whole being part of a cult. That's kind of where they are at this point. Gnarly, I don't know what their connection is there either. I'm thinking it's he recognizes that he's a problem. I think that that's it. He recognizes that he is a problem. Um, that may possibly need to be dealt with at some point. Okay, so I think that's where we are there. Now we also need to create essential threats. That's another element here of, well, not character creation per se. Nonetheless, it is an element of kind of the creation process in Apocalypse World. So let's do that. So when you create essential threats, there are a few essential threats that you need to create. One is you need to create a landscape for where the PCs are. So that landscape that we are in. I really don't have a great idea about what this landscape is like. Right. So, oh wait. I wanted to go back a minute, go back a minute. I do want to get a little bit more detail on Tum Tum and on. I always misplace things, don't I? Okay, there we are. I do want to give a little bit more detail on Tum Tum and on Gnarly. Specifically, like their goals we already have. We got that from the Apocalypse World system. But I also want to know something about their notable features, right? So that is something that is in. So first, for Tum Tum, what is a notable feature? Number two, there's a notable nature. Okay, so there's something about Tum Tum's nature that is notable, and here I'm supposed to, it says to draw a detail focus, all right, which is another card. What is that detail focus? Three. Detail focus three, it says large and physical. Okay, well, I mean, nat there. Okay, so, all right, so the way that I'm thinking about this, I don't think I'm going to take this literally because remember, the notable feature is not a physical trait. It is instead something that their nature. So I think that Tum Tum, cult leader, when it says physical and large, that's actually like the way they, right? So acts very kind of. I'm imagining like somebody who like the overacting stage actor that is excessively physical in the way that they portray things, right? So no subtlety at all. So it acts very theatrically overacting. Now, I need something for, okay, so it's number six for gnarly. Number six's notable feature would be an unexpected age or origin. All right, unexpected age or origin. Again, let's get a detail on that one. The detail is Queen of Diamonds. So detail Queen. Queen would be exotic. Okay. Um, Diamonds would be technical, right? So like exotic, I think. Well, okay. Gnarly is clearly a foreigner, right? So he's not from around here, and notably so. This could create some backstory for Gnarly. I'm thinking that Gnarly may not have been welcome where he came from, and that is why he ended up where we are now. Wait, no, I don't want to get rid of that too. Okay, cool. So we got that. Nice. So our character is now created. I'm pretty happy with this. We have these two threats. Now let's continue creating these essential threats as we go. So again, landscape is the thing we're looking at. So what I think I'm going to do here, very convenient. There are six different types of landscape. So let's go ahead and roll that. And then I want to come up with some kind of name for it. Number two, two would be a breeding pit, generates badness. So threat number three would be landscape breeding pit, generates badness. So that's the kind of town we're in. What kind of town? What kind of town name do we want? Well, the next name here would be Fleece. So let's go ahead and call it Fleece's Landing. Now, again, I need some kind of stakes question. Now, I want to pull up here. I'm just pulling out my PDF to check about these stakes questions to see if maybe there's a little bit of guidance here, something that is going to inspire. Oh, as I'm flipping through, the game book is rated R. All right, all right. So threats. So here we go. Excellent. Discontinuity. Okay. So my daughter wanted a popsicle. Anyway, mm, back you can't actually see it because that's like where I have my little box for stuff. But that's where we keep our deep freezes in the garage. So in any case, so I was looking up about stakes questions while she was getting her popsicle, and here's what it says, right? So, um, write a question or two about the fate of the threat. If you're interested enough to wonder how it will turn out, you can write your stakes questions at a wide range of scales. So something like a person's or small group's circumstances or living conditions, their life or the lives of a small group of people, so on. If one of the players is playing a hard holder, include the safety, growth, decline, or some particular of the entire holding. Right, so examples. I wonder, will Bertie get a better place to live? I wonder, will Rourke live through this? I wonder, who will join Tum Tum's cult? I wonder, will Foster break Uncle's holding? Stakes should be concrete, absolute, irrevocable in their consequences, people's lives, maybe not necessarily their lives or deaths, at least not every time, but always materially significant changes to their lives. So, facing backward, it's especially important to disclaim responsibility for the fates of the NPCs that you like best. It's the central act of discipline that emceeing Apocalypse World requires. When you write a question as a stake, you're committing to not answering it yourself. You're going to let the game answer it. Okay. And that's the discipline and also the reward. Okay, so all right. So not actually a whole lot here in terms of guidance as far as that goes. But it should be something things like can the community survive Gnarly's presence? That's something. It's not so much about the fate of Gnarly, though it is about the fate of the community related to Gnarly. So Fleece's Landing, what is the stakes here? Right. So I think something that we need to know about it is that I think it's this is not at all one of the better places. This is very much like I'm going to say hive of scum and villainy. I'm just going to write that down as a note. The stakes here for Fleece's Landing. Right. I don't know that anybody here actually wants to clean it up. Right. I want to know, um, will it eat itself? Because that's the kind of thing that can happen, right? So, like, will the community destroy itself? All right. So I'm going to write that down. Fleece's Landing as our third threat. All right. Cool. Next thing. So when I go under essential threats, for any PC's gang, we don't have a gang. For any PC's other NPCs, we don't have any of those either. For any PC's vehicles, we don't have a vehicle. And for any local populations, we need to create an affliction, right? So there needs to be an affliction on this population because the local population would be the population of Fleece's Landing. So let's find out what their affliction is, right? So again, it's a list of six. So this is great. So let's just go ahead and roll. I got a six, right? So a six indicates a barrier. So a barrier is there to impoverish people, right? So threat number four is a barrier. So that's the question. What is it about this that would create this kind of problem? Um, so what is it? What is impoverishing people here? Okay, well, I'm just looking at the possible moves for affliction. So things like reading a situation. Okay, whatever. Uh, someone neglects duties, responsibilities, obligations. I think that might be it. Is that because that's it. Because of the insecurity here, because it's a hive of scum and villainy, people just don't want to work very much, which makes perfect sense, by the way. If you work and what you work for is taken from you, you're not going to work very hard, right? You are going to live hand to mouth precisely because you don't want what you have in your hands to go to someone else, right? So I'm going to say it's called insecurity, right? So the description here is just that Um, I guess that people feel too insecure in their property, so acquire very little. Right? And that would tend then to increase poverty. Okay. So I'm just gonna make insecurity here as well. Just adding everything to my threat map. Cool. Stakes. Stakes here. So that is, will the community find a way secure itself? So this doesn't keep this cycle can doesn't have to continue forever. Okay, so that's the question on that one. Okay, cool. So we've got here now, what have we done? Right, so I want to check a couple things, right? So I've got my character all set. This is wonderful. I'm going to cross out the special moves. If you know Apocalypse World, you know that I like to keep things PG rated here. So no, we are not going to be doing any special moves. If you don't know what that means, I mean, if you're a grown up, you know what I'm talking about. All right, so all right. I feel like there was one more thing that I wanted to do here. Oh, yes, 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 yes. Okay, and I need to highlight stats. I need to do the first of that. So, highlighting stats, any highlighted stats, when you use those, if you roll them, succeed or not, if you roll them, then you get an experience point every time you roll it. Yeah. All right, so that is something. So I think it makes sense for me, given the stats that I have. I want to do sharp and weird, and I can rearrange those as I wish from session between sessions is when you would do that. Right. So if I want to like say, oh, I think given what's coming up, we may want to shift more towards something else, toward more cool or hot or hard or whatever, that's fine. But for now, sharp and weird, because those are his specialties, it makes sense that I'm going to highlight those stats. Okay, so we've got our character created. We've got some threats created. Just want to double check here my list of what's supposed to happen in the first session according to Apocalypse World first, and then we're going to go back and double check Katrina Ostrander's list because I know there's stuff here that I definitely still need to do. So it says during the first session, what do we do? Oh, no, it's okay. I think we're pretty good. So I'm just looking at that. So we did character creation. We did the threat map, right? And then after threat map, after the first session, I'm supposed to go back over the threat map, and so on, pull it apart for individual threads and that kind of stuff. Anyway, so I'm not worried about that at the moment. So let's pull back and Katrina Ostrander, what does Katrina tell us? So we did character creation, character backstories. Now, at this point, right, we have a very vague sense of who Oliver is. We don't know where Oliver came from. We still don't have a dramatic question or premise about this. Right? Even though we have some sense of who he is, again, we don't have a dramatic question or premise yet. We still need to work on that. This is turning into a long setup, isn't it? Well, that's okay. Session ones or session zeros, I find more people click on them for some reason. Okay. Uh, Although I'm sure I've lost like most of my audience by now. So thank you to the two of you that are still watching. Yeah, one who's still watching. All right, so things I need to do. So my checklist. Dramatic question and premise. We've not done that yet. Character creation. Done that. Character backstories. We haven't done that yet. I'm going to come back to that one. Side or personal quest assignments. This might come out of building in the backstory. And the inciting incident that sets the plot in motion. We haven't done that yet either. So, thought is, let's do the character backstory. I'm going to pull out my character backstory guide here, which I picked up from the bookstore sometime a couple months ago. It was a month ago. I don't know. Right. So this is an expanded genres edition. It does not have post-apocalyptic as one of those genres, unless I'm going to play post-apocalyptic punk, in which case it does have X punk, where you just fill in X, so it can be steampunk, cyberpunk, whatever. But I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do the. Okay, options are fantasy, sci-fi, horror, X-punk, superhero, and western. I'm not going to do any of those. I'm just going to do the all genre one. Right. So the all genre, it's 264. Okay, is my page. So let's look at these exercises. So, all right. So the rest of your group, we roll a d20 to pick a random life experience from the list. You decide whether your character went through that experience. If they did, let the group know by putting one of your fingers down. And then you expand your history. Starting to the left, each PC will either explore a moment in their character's history or determine how their character feels about the possibility of facing the experience in the future. If you put a finger down, then you follow the instructions for you have. Otherwise, you follow the instructions for you have not. Okay, this sounds good. And what it suggests then the game ends after at least one character has put five fingers down, or your group has considered eight experiences. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to either find five things that he has done, or a total of eight things, including no more than four that he has done. So has and has not are my two lists here. I'm going to pull out a d20, and I also need a d6, but I have the d6 already out. So pull out my d20 here. It's kind of a fun little game of exercise, I suppose. Right. I've got my d20 here now. There we go. Zipping bags up. Okay, let's move this. I don't need that. All right, take my cards away. So, roll my d20. First thing, 11. So I need to decide, has my character ever held an important secret? Hmm. Held an important secret. Well, I'm thinking about who he is. He's very childlike. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no, he actually has not, right, held an important secret. Now, because he has not, we need to roll now a d6 and answer this question. What do you fear most about this experience? Oh, that's easy. Oh, that's easy. So here's the thing, right? Oliver is very open, I've decided. Um, which this is gonna be hard for me to play because I'm not. I tend to play characters like I reveal as little information as possible. I don't think that's what Oliver is. I think Oliver is very open about things. So I think what he fears most if someone tried to have him um, hold on to an important secret, that he couldn't do it, that he would reveal it to the wrong person. And he does not trust himself to be able to keep a secret. I think that's an important part of his character, is that, and this is going to change the way that he's going to interact with people in this area as well. I mean, like, think about the world that he's in here in Fleece's Landing. It's not a good place, right? Secrets are going to be important. He is not good at holding on to them. And I think that may help to explain a little bit of why he is so socially isolated. As we know that that's something that tends to be the case um, for savvy heads. He's more comfortable with things than people, but I think part of it might be because of this trust thing. He doesn't trust himself, and others generally would not trust him to be secretive about things that need to be secretive. Next one. Okay. 6. Was betrayed. Has he ever been betrayed? I think the answer is yes. I'm not sure what that looks like yet. But let's roll the d6. Find out what question we have to answer about that one. 5. Present a challenge. So give the character a goal or an unfinished business related to this event. The PC decides if they are actively pursuing this goal, trying to avoid the responsibility. So this could relate to having a personal side quest, right? So in what sense? I think that, because remember, one of the options is that a savvy head sometimes will have like skilled labor, so like people who are working with them. I think that's what happened, was that he had someone who was working with him who then stole from him. So I think there may be some amount of vendetta there toward this person. What is the name of this person? Well, I'm glad that you asked. I have a name list right here. White was betrayed by White, who stole from him in Skiptown. We don't know where White is. Is White a threat? I'm inclined to say yes. Right, so I will flesh that out here. Well, you know what? We're in the middle. Like, I'm trying to be like upfront and honest about this stuff. I don't want to do stuff off camera because the whole point is showing the process, right? So, threat number 5 is called white. What kind of threat is white? Well, let's look up the threat table again. There we go. Kinds of threats. I think remember what threat did was steal. Um, okay, he's a cyberite to consume someone's resources. We don't know where he is. We do know that he's outside, far away. Okay, so I'm just adding him to the map here. So threat number 5. Okay. All right. Next one. So we're up to two, of which he has done one. Next list. 15. Has he ever held a position of real power? No, absolutely not. No. No, he is not. And the question I need to answer that was number two. When you imagine this happening, what comes to mind? Who is involved? Okay, when I think about coming to a position of real power, I think this is not at all attractive, right? He kind of likes, right, being in the background in some ways, right? He doesn't like having to deal, right, with the idea of being in charge of people. I don't think that that's pleasant, right? So, who is involved with coming to real power? Well, certainly this town would be, right? But I don't think there's anyone individual. I mean, except probably, oh, what was her name? Tum Tum. Probably Tum Tum would be, since Tum Tum does have a certain amount of real power. So I think that that would be the case here. That he would imagine that that would be the only way it could happen would be his connection with her. All right, so there's that one. Next, six, betrayed. Well, we already did betrayed. Okay. Okay, nothing here says. Okay, there's nothing here says. Let's do a few roll same thing twice. Ever solved a mystery? Yes, yes, definitely. Solved a mystery. The way that he thinks, solving a mystery in this case involved fixing an important piece of equipment for somebody. Right now, who did he fix that equipment for? I suspect, like I've not yet figured out who the. I don't think there actually is a leader in Fleece's Landing, but I think that like one of the gangs that is present here and kind of part of a very tenuous um, a piece of, in a sense, right? I think that that is that's it. That's it. He fixed something for the leader of this gang, is what happened. So let's see what I have to roll here for. Uh, present a mystery. So establish a question the character has about the event they are seeking an answer for. The PC decides if this mystery haunts or excites them. Well, I think that they do kind of wonder because I think this was an odd piece of equipment, and it's one of those things where like he had to read it and he knew how to fix it, but he wasn't really sure what it did. I think that's it. Right, so he solved a mystery. I think the answer is yes, in the sense that he fixed a piece of equipment, right, for one of the gangs, but doesn't know what it's for. Okay, so we're gonna do three or four more rolls, depending on how they go. Our next one, seven. Seven, have you ever betrayed another? No. No, he would not. Four. What about this experience excites or inspires curiosity in you? What would it be like to betray somebody? I think like Oliver doesn't really get like that would be so new to him because he is like so open that he doesn't even understand how it would work, honestly. Like I think he is most curious about the internal experience of what it would be like. Like, because he doesn't know how to keep a secret. Have you ever lost faith? Did he ever have faith? I think he's super optimistic. I really think he is. Um, which is funny, like given like where he is, but like expressive face, appraising eyes, wiry body, vintage wear plus tech, right? I mean, I think that he is hopelessly optimistic. So I don't think he has ever lost faith. Right? What do you fear most about this experience? I think that he really thinks it would break him, honestly. That if he real that if he like well, he doesn't believe that people are good. Uh, he's realistic enough for that. Nonetheless, right, kind of his internal, like, like in some sense, right, there's kind of this innocence or optimism about him. And if that went away, I don't think he would know what was left. I think he's actually afraid that he could turn really, really bad at that point. Right. But so, like, that may be part of why he's worried about being around people, because he has been betrayed before in very minor ways, but I think that he is worried that it could end very, very badly. At this point, we know because of, um, okay, that we're going to be having two more rolls. Okay, so 16. 16, have you ever felt alone? Oh, yes, yes, definitely felt alone. That's actually a regular experience for him. 5, present a challenge. So give the character a goal or unfinished business related to this event. Oh, that's interesting. So I think he actually wants to make a friend. Maybe that's why he has some kind of connection with Tum Tum, possibly. Doesn't want to join her cult, but nonetheless, right? He feels some weird kinship because they're both kind of weird people. Right? So he would like for there to be more connection in his life. 15, have you ever held up? Oh, we already did that one. Have you ever, one, left home? I think the answer is yes. I don't think he was born in Fleece's Landing. So, all right. So we had four yeses, four nos. Let's find out what detail we have to do for this one. One, add a detail. So add a piece of new information to the story that complicates matters or provides the character with privileged information. The PC states how this character feels about this information. So the question is, where's the home that he left? This would be a different location. Okay, so let's actually flesh out another location. I think this location is far away from here. Which direction? I'm not entirely sure. But here, I'll just roll it. I'll just start with one is north, go clockwise around the compass. Okay, so it is far to the east. Right, so far to the east is where he is from originally. This place was called, the next name on this list is Lala. He's from La La Land, right? Sure. Um, so just reminding myself out of detail. So, oh, I guess La La Land would be it. Um, okay, cool. Now, I do want to do a little bit more of fleshing out this threat here of La La Land, add it to my threat list. So La La Land, what kind of landscape is it? Well, here, let's find out. I'm just gonna roll it. 4. It is a mirage. Oh, that's great. Oh, that's great. That's great. Okay. It's a mirage. Its impulse is to entice and betray people. All right, so I'm not going to add a stakes question here. We know that it's far to the east, but the big description of it that I want us to remember is that this is some place that feels on the surface very clean, very safe. Um, like it is like a Hollywood, right? So I'm going to say like Hollywood, it's pristine on the outside or on the surface, but decayed underneath. Right, so it's the kind of place where under the surface there's scandal everywhere. Right, so even though appearances are all very good, underneath the surface it is not. So that is where he came from. Right, he came from La La Land. So in some ways, I mean, this is I like this exercise, right? Because one thing we've learned about Oliver through this is that he is honest to a fault, right? And he's weirdly hopeful. given his background. But I think the honest to a fault comes from the fact that he came from this background of someplace that was really very, very fake. Now he's someplace that, while it's not good, it's nonetheless very honest about what it is, right? People here are just poor. People here are not nice, right? Right. They're kind of mean, right? But you know what you're dealing with. And I think that that is something that, like, that is the reason that he's still here. Like, yes, this community might possibly destroy itself because that's what happens, right, with these types of communities sometimes. But nonetheless, right, he is attracted to it because there's a sense in which he feels like he knows what he's getting. Now, obviously, this isn't necessarily true. Just because people are mean doesn't mean they're actually being honest with you. Right? So that's setting up a potential theme, maybe. All right, so the character backstories we've got. Aside from personal quest, I think we actually had a couple things come out there. Um, so I think a personal quest here. I think he would actually kind of like. Okay, so this is. I'm thinking of two things. Right, uh, one possible personal quest would be hunting down White. He wants to locate White and confront him. Right, so I think that might be it. So I'm going to write down that as a personal quest. Are we actually going to see that done? I don't know. Maybe. Right, is to confront. I guess find and confront White. So it's a possibility. Okay. All right. So that is that. Wonderful. Wonderful. I'm excited about this. Right. So we've got our character creation done. We have our character backstory. We have a personal quest. Right? Now we need the inciting incident that sets the plot in motion. Now, in order to create this, I'm just going to make a random event here. It's really that straightforward. So we have here random event. Okay, to create a random event, draw the following. So we need an action focus and we need a topic focus. Let's pull out my cards again. The action focus. 8 of clubs. This would be a physical reveal. And ace of diamonds. Topic PC's technical. Well, okay, and the PC is technical. So it needs to be some kind of physical reveal related to him. So I'm trying to think about what physical reveal would be appropriate for Oliver, because he is so open all the time anyway, right? So it's an inciting incident for him. Okay. Um, I think maybe. I think it has something to do with white, right? Because this is the thing. This is the one thing that's really kind of been bothering Oliver, right? So I think that someone they get news or something. He sees, right, a photograph, an image, right, and white is in it. Right? That is part of what happens. So I think that is where the inciting incident is. So he now has some sense of where white may be. Where is white? Well, let's roll for a cardinal direction. He's to the north. Right. So white, we believe, is to the north somewhere. So we just moved him. He's not just out of town. Right. He's in the north. Okay. So I think that is going to kind of set things off. Now, we need to do our prep work for session one. So in session one, what we want to do is establish the setting, the hint of normalcy before shaking things up. We need to draw the PCs into the plot with action, conflict, or a challenge. So I think this is when the whole white thing is going to get revealed. And then we need to show the PCs a glimpse of the villain's plans. We may not fully comprehend them, right? And we need to highlight the stakes. So the question is, what is white involved with, right, that is somehow going to have an impact on Oliver in a way that he's going to care about what's happening. So, one of the problems that we have with Oliver is that threatening a person I don't think is going to work very well, with the exception of maybe Tum Tum. Actually, that might be a reasonable direction to go. Right, so I'm thinking now, what is the villain's plans? So the villain now has what we know about the villain. We don't know who the villain is. Maybe we should develop the villain. That's a good idea. Let's develop the villain. So, the villain. I think the villain is a powerful person. I think Warlord makes sense in terms of what type of threat we would be dealing with. Right? Because this is now okay, wait. It could be one of it could be two okay, three things. Right? Okay. Yeah, it's gonna be a combination, right, of a warlord, right, and their brutes. I think this makes sense. Right. So let's go ahead and write these people up. And white is involved with this group. So that is how I'm going to frame this. So we have, oh my goodness, we have a total of 8 threats already. Welcome to Apocalypse World. So, threat number 7 and 8. Threat number 7. Number 7 is the person in charge of this gang. The next name on the list, I love this so much, is Bill. His name's Bill. Right? And he is to the north because White is with Bill. What kind of person is Bill? Well, I know that Bill is a warlord. That is something that I'm very sure of. What type of warlord? Number 5 would be he's a collector as well. Right, okay, well, this would be interesting. So he is a collector. He's trying to own things. Now, I think it might make sense that what he's actually trying to own, right, is like tech. That is the thing that he's actually after. Right, so that would make sense for like why is it that White, who stole tech, okay, so stole tech, just to make sure that I don't forget this, stole tech from Oliver. Right, so Bill is the collector. I'm imagining him, I think that he's fairly wealthy, right? This makes some degree of sense. So I'm just gonna just start writing down some descriptions. So I think he's wealthy. I want to know a little bit more about him in terms of like details. So let's go ahead and do this thing again. So roll. A notable feature. Okay, so he has a notable nature as well. What? Tell me a little bit about that nature. That nature is Jack of Diamonds. He's unexpected in a technical sense. Right, so I think maybe that's it. Um, so unexpected technical. So I think he has a technical background as well, but he has transitioned over into kind of having this warlord status, right? So I'm gonna say he's basically an engineer turned warlord. I think that is kind of where he is, right? And then his brutes, what are they like? You know what? I'm actually gonna roll for that as well. 4 to come with that. Okay. All right. So his so I'm just gonna say this is Bill's gang. The kind of it is a cult. Now, I don't necessarily want to take that in the religious sense, but rather in terms of what its goals are. So the goal of a cult is to victimize and incorporate people. Right. So I'm just gonna write these down here. So 7 is Bill, and 8 being Bill's gang. Yeah. So I think that and it makes sense that one, Bill has White with him, right? But I think Bill is also um trying to gather stuff from whatever communities he can actually have or some kind of connection with. So he's going to try to take stuff from Fleece's Landing. He's going to try to fleece Fleece's Landing. That makes perfect sense, right? Right. So I think that this is what's going to happen. So his plan, right? I think that he wants to just totally like acquire whatever there happens to be here. Which that's something about this area. It's not very rich. It's really chaotic. But the people here have something like freedom. Now they're always under constant threat of people stealing from them, that kind of thing. But but nonetheless, like they can kind of do what they want. So I think that that is the thing the bill is trying to do. So that those are the stakes, right? So that is, will Bill discontinuity again? My daughter loves her popsicles. What can I say? All right. So okay, so I've got so that's the plan. So will Bill? No, that's the question. Will Bill be able to take over or capture Fleece's Landing? So I'm trying to think about like the way this is going to work out in this first session, right? So we want to establish the setting. Well, that's easy enough to do. Drawing the PCs into the plot with action, conflict, or a challenge. So I think what is going to happen is that there's going to be a group that comes to town from Bill's gang that is um, scouting or something like that. And then our hope is, right, we're going to fight them off. Right? That is the plan. Right? We're going to fight them off, and as we fight them off, that's when we're going to get the information that White is with this gang, and that is what is going to get Oliver interested in what's happening here. So I'm thinking in terms of overarching story arcs that that is what is going to happen. Okay, so that is the preparation for that first session. That is what we can expect to happen, um, and I think this has been by far enough for one session. It's an hour and a half. So, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sticking with me, and I will see you. Oh, no, I won't. I guess I'm not gonna see you. That's not how YouTube works. You'll see me in the next session. We actually get down to the action. So, thank you for tuning in, and this is Prof E signing off.